Janice, here we go. Welcome everyone to the Festival of Chimes and Lights Committee meeting today, June 14th. We're going to get started with our agenda. Hi, Corrine, I see you're there. Talking about our tree decorating contest, and I think Janine will give us an update on how we're doing and what's going on with that.
Definitely. So I'm just pulling up the spreadsheet right now. Just bear with me for 1 second.
Okay. Actually, Kareem will give us be able to give us an update too on how things are going with the planters. They look beautiful. I drove through and the flowers look amazing. Hi,
They
Kareem.
actually do look pretty good. I always worry because not everybody meets my gardening standards. But they're in good shape. But we haven't had our stretches of no rain and no watering and no heat. So by August, who knows?
Right. So the deal is whoever adopted the planter is supposed to be watering it, right, on a regular basis.
Absolutely. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Okay.
And that's the thing that is the hardest for people to do. I think some of them think they get watered from rain like we've been having. The hanging baskets get the rain. The planters below might get some on the front half, or the ones that are on the corners where the marquee isn't. So they have to be watered a lot.
Yes. Okay. So it'll remains to be seen how well that does. So was that the very same as last year, Kareem? Were the planters adopted last year?
Yeah.
And did people, for the most part, keep up with the watering?
There was a few planters that looked pretty sad by the end of the summer, and I kind of anticipate that this year too. So it saves POBSA a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
As it is, we still need to repair one block of the watering irrigation system, and we don't quite have enough money to do it. Not to mention we have to. It's a long story. I think you know about. Until the Dragonfly is purchased and the water's turned back on, we can't do anything. But then we need $700 to $900 to repair that block. So we maybe have.
Is that something that can be done through LTAC money, or probably not?
My understanding is up until a few years ago that a lot of the flower baskets and all that were done with LTAC, and then the rules were changed, or the city said no. Or so last year I begged for some extra money from LTAC once COVID came. And honestly, Cindy, I wish I had canceled the flower baskets this year, because it's really hard for us to come up with the money to fix the irrigation system. I just spent $440 to fix a block that last year was fine, and then it failed at the end of the summer, and the baskets died on that block. It's just a mess. So it's, but it's too late. I bought the baskets, they're hanging. I have 4 volunteers who watered the Dragonfly block because we don't have irrigation on that block. So it's just,
Yep, always something.
I know at some point the city will start taking over those beautification efforts. We've talked about it, but it's not going to happen yet. So.
Okay, so the irrigation system repairs are, how much was that?
For one block for this, well, I just repaired one block for $440. The other block is going to be $700 to $900. And we spent about, I can't remember, we spent around $2,600 repairing irrigation systems last year too. So
wow.
That's my point. POBSA can't keep doing this indefinitely.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Okay, so, and how much were the flowering baskets?
Baskets are $2,400 for 25, I think it is.
Okay.
We had $1,100, maybe it was $1,000 donated. 1,100, I think it was, donated towards the basket and the repair systems, plus 500 from Kids at Bank. But that still doesn't total 9 plus 4 plus 24, whatever all that is.
Right. Okay. Yeah, I know. It's going to be a tough couple of years, I think. But okay.
Everybody loves the flowers downtown too. So the thing is, Cindy, and I think you know this, If we hadn't put the baskets up, if we hadn't ordered them, you know who everybody would blame? The city, because they think the city does it. And it's not the city, it's POPSA that's been doing it for 15 years or so. But you know what? If it weren't for COVID, if Fathoms hadn't had enough money to do fireworks, forget COVID, and there were no fireworks, they blame the city because they think the city does the fireworks. Everybody thinks the city does everything or doesn't do anything. So, you know, you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. So, but the baskets are up. I just have to raise the money to fix the irrigation system.
Okay, Janine, maybe we're switching back to the agenda for men. The sponsor update on the trees.
Yeah, so as of today, we have 17. I am planning on doing, writing up some social media posts that we can go ahead and get out there, start publishing. But yeah, we've had, you know, a lot of people have calling and asking if we're still doing it and letting me know they're going to submit their applications and payment. And of course, we're open to the public now, so people can come on in and make their payment and they don't have to mail it. But we are getting a couple a week now, which is really nice.
Yeah, actually, I'm surprised at how many are sold this
Yeah.
early, which is great.
Yep.
And I know, Kareem, we talked about this earlier. So as far as numbering the planters, we didn't want to get started too soon on anything too formal because because people pretty much knew where they wanted to have their adopted flower planters, and we didn't want to mess that whole thing up.
I will say though
and
that not having them numbered has already, we already had people planting in the wrong planters because they're not numbered. And if you recall last year, somebody decorated the wrong tree because they're not numbered. So I think of some kind of permanent numbering system really is needed.
Yeah, we're
So,
working on that. And see, even if they're numbered, people change the numbers because there's certain ones that they want. So, or move the pots, you know, sometimes that doesn't matter if they really, really want a location.
well,
But
we have a downtown merchant who seems to think the planter belongs to him, and it doesn't. The city, to my knowledge, city bought those. It's the city and POPSA that have been doing all the work for trees or planters. I mean, Chris was going to go talk to him because he tried to take plants out and was nasty to one of my planter adoptees. He's on the, without naming name, he is on the northeast corner of Sydney and Bay.
Northeast, okay.
It's the bike shop owner.
Yeah, Fred.
Oh,
Fred. He could be ornery.
he thinks that the planter is his?
And somebody told me that a year or two ago as well. As a matter of fact, he had pushed it back against his storefront. And when we did the adopt a planters last year, he moved it back to where all the rest of them are. So, so I actually had a planter adoptee quit because she didn't, because somebody took some plants. This is the first year we've had people steal plants, by the way, so far. 2 or 3 have been, you know, molested. And Fred was being nasty to her. So I got somebody else to take over that pot, I think. But I think numbers will solve a lot of problems, Cindy. You know, those little plaques, if we glue them to the edge, I think that it'll look a lot better than stupid duct tape on the planter.
Well, I agree. Duct tape was just a holding.
What we need
piece.
is something, yeah.
Yeah,
So, right.
Somebody had mentioned here, because we were talking about it, somebody mentioned maybe as a temporary until we get a permanent number is maybe doing stencils. And I'm not sure if that's the right word, but you have like 1 through 10, and then you put those up and then you color in the number that you want. So it's permanently affixed to the planter, either by marker or spray paint. But somebody had mentioned maybe doing stencil numbers and just write on the planter.
I'm not sure how well that would work on because of its aggregate, you know, it's not smooth, it's the aggregate stone. And I mean, I think the little plaques would be so much more, professional looking. But stenciling would be cheaper.
Well, and getting it to look right. That's another thing. It's not that easy to stencil when you're upright.
Yeah,
You
that's
move
true.
the stencil to make the second number and the paint kind of smears. I've done a
Yeah.
lot of the stenciling stuff. And it's not as easy as if you don't have it lying down on the ground where you can just leave it. It's a lot
Yeah.
harder when you're trying to do this kind of thing. But you know what? By fall, we'll have numbers on there.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I
Well-
can't remember what the price quote was I told you, but it seemed to me it like came to 160 altogether.
I think it was
maybe?
like $3.10 each is what that was on those.
Maybe 160 was half because Pop said we'd help pay
Yeah.
if the city won't pay all of it.
Yeah.
Or
I-
can't.
We'll definitely have those. We'll have permanent numbers on them by fall. And we're just kind of holding off right now because of the volunteer flower thing. And we're going to have to move some planters and all of
I
that.
remember you said that. Yeah.
So
shift
no
some
worries. We'll get that done. And I agree with you. It's, it'll head something off at the pass.
Yeah.
So let's see. We're talking about event updates. And I think that this is a good time for Sharon to share a little bit because she's run into something that we're all going to have to be dealing with events. And it's a bit of change of policy. And I can't tell you that I know too much about this yet. It seems real new, but we just heard that a change of policy in how much the police will be involved in our events as far as controlling traffic. Sharon, is that accurate?
Very accurate.
Which none of us have really planned for that much, except for some of the big special events that was planned for. But our city events historically have been helped by the police, and it's a little bit new. I just heard this very recently myself, so I can't speak with too much authority on the subject, and I need to talk to our fellow council members. And anyway, we don't know. We don't know if traffic's going to be stopped, how much involvement the police will have with that. Sharon, can you share just a little bit? You had the most recent meeting and you have most current information.
Based on the information that he recommended to Brandy for our event requests, is that by close of business day tomorrow, I have to lay out a new plan of how people are going to cross the crosswalks. We have to have crossing guards all the way from Frederick to Seattle through 4 intersections and have crossing guards at each one of those sections. They have to be completely certified. We have a parent of a royalty on our board who has some connections to the school crossing guards, and they're all certified. So we might be able to get some free volunteers there. We kind of laid it out on the table about having one massive class where we could publicize that, hey, we need crossing guards for events downtown. Come to the class, get certified, because if you do it individually, it's $85 per individual to have that done. And so he's going to be working with legal because time is of the essence for us for our July 3rd, 4th, and 5th 3-day summer festival. So for all 3 days, we have to have a minimum at this point of at least 8 crossing guards for the 3 days, because you're going to, you have to shift them 4 hours here and 4 hours there, but you've got to do it for 3 days. So at any event, there has to be crossing guards.
So
And
I'm confused. Which events? So,
our 3-day summer festival,
but it's so not because the streets being closed, but just regular
regular
pedestrians?
traffic, regular pedestrian traffic. And I raised the question, I said, okay, then why is the farmer's market not putting crossing guards out there every Saturday? Because they take up all of lot 4, which we're taking up lot 4. The farmer's market on a co-day on Saturdays takes lot 3, we take lot 4. And so he would have to check into that, because if you're taxing one, you tax them all. So that would be
I don't understand.
it'd be the
I'm
same
just
for the night market, ladies' night out, any event where people are crossing the street.
But every day people cross the street.
They do cross the street. We
There's
put
lights
out
for that.
lots of things to even talk about. It's like, well, we can't tell you not to jaywalk if you want to jaywalk. And COVID didn't make us stupid. We still know how to cross the street. But things are changing.
That's really disappointing.
Things are changing, and it's not going to be the same. They are not going to pay for law enforcement officers to stand at an intersection and be a traffic director. So
I get that part. It's just, where do you draw the line between a regular Saturday's pedestrians and something that needs crossing guards? I mean, if we're not closing the street, if it's happening in the back parking lots.
Yeah. So everything will change completely. And he reiterated that, as well as Donna Main did too.
And that was Chief Brown.
Yes.
We actually have a community task force meeting coming up next Thursday. I'm on that task force.
Well, ours is critical. I have to work with John Clausen, because he will not let Kitsap Transit buses zigzag in at the end of Peninsula Brew and around and back of the library and turn left. He will not let that happen. He will close Harrison Street completely when we're in lot 3 with the farmer's market and lot 4 with Fathoms. So I just sent John Clausen an email asking him to consider the buses lining up along the front of the library where the mural wall is, and getting his riders from the ferry at that location. And that the chief will not allow Harrison Street to be open, because he will not allow the buses through traffic when it's lot 3 and lot 4. And I have to have all that by the close of business tomorrow.
Sorry,
So keep
Sharon.
your fingers crossed. Otherwise, we won't be having events.
Okay. And we're just volunteers ourselves.
Yeah, he was positive in saying that they do want to work with us. They do want things to happen. But right now, we're on a real major time crunch in order for it to happen. And at the end of the day, he did volunteer to be dunked in the dunk tank for us.
Well, there you go.
Yeah, so that was the report at the end of the day after that 2-hour discussion.
The thing is, and I'm feeling this pain, is seems to be a policy change that no one had a lot of notice to plan for.
Yeah.
And of course, COVID was in the middle of all of that.
COVID was there, as well as the fact that we didn't get the okay to submit an event applications until the 25th of May. So
Yeah.
this has been crunch city for all of us, not just us. Even though we put on more events than anybody else, it's still crunch time.
So I just mentioned the community task force, the community police task force, and Chief Brown has been very anxious for us to meet, and we were going to try to meet last Thursday, but a couple of people couldn't do it. So we meet next Thursday, and I know he keeps saying there's a bunch of changes and he needs to sit down with us and blah, blah, blah. So I don't know if this is part of it, but
I'm sure it will be.
well, I'll be sure and be at that meeting, Sharon.
Yeah.
So we are needing, all of us would be needing crosswalk volunteers to be certified for events.
Correct.
Because of traffic flow, increased traffic flow is the idea. And that's not even when the street is closed.
Right. So if the street is closed, it wouldn't maybe, I mean, it's closed for parade, which of course we're not having, at least not right now. And it's closed for Chimes and Lights.
It's closed for Festival by the Bay.
Well, yeah,
August
that's
8th.
right. Oh,
Right.
so I want,
he's
the
already
park-
notified the cruise folks that they have to have crossing guards.
So if you can get a certification class going, that would be, I think, great. And then a lot of people at once can get certified.
Yeah. Now, whether or not they would do it for free as a volunteer for the sake of the community, or if they would expect minimum wage.
Janine, I think something that we can get out on the city website is looking for volunteers to be certified as crosswalk volunteers for our events. That I see no reason why we couldn't be looking for volunteers as a city. This is going to be important. If this is something that we're going to have to be dealing with on social media, the training can go through whom we'll have to figure that all out, how we're going to do all that. But
Yeah.
clearly, this is something brand new. And, Sharon's up against a time crunch like none other. We have got to get this worked out and thought out a little bit more. I just think that no one had enough time to deal with this new change. Kathy, do you have something?
I was just wondering if there's so many new changes, maybe it would be a good idea if it's, I don't know if they're coming from the police department, the city, where they're all coming from, but on the application, maybe it would be nice to have a cover page that says, expect these new changes and guidelines, and maybe somebody can identify what those are so that we don't end up with the frustration from people that have been doing events for, so long one way, and now all of a sudden it's different. It'd be nice to have that defined and given to people before they go through the work of putting the application together, I think.
Right. I agree with
Yeah.
you. And I'm telling you, this is quite new, okay? Because
Yeah.
I'm hearing things that I did not know about, and it's not like we weren't in the loop. So when changes are made, we all need more time to be able to adapt. And so I will see what I can do about a greater discussion about this, because I'm just learning myself, honest to goodness.
And Chief Brown did like the idea when we brought it up about doing a class where a mass of people could go to and get certified all at one time. So having the city post that and start that ball rolling now, I think would be awesome.
So
Okay,
I'll look into this. Yeah.
Okay,
does
great,
does
Janine.
anyone know, is it because it's the state highway that the change, that I wonder if it has something to do with that?
No, it's
As
just
opposed
strictly
to a-
pedestrian traffic.
But it's not a state mandate because it's a highway.
It's a highway, but it's not a state mandate to my knowledge. It's their changes of what they want to implement. And even Helene and I shared that we have taken our float literally across the state of Washington, and we have never, ever seen crossing guards at Leavenworth, Wenatchee, Olympia, anywhere on the peninsula that we've taken our float to when they've had vendor shows and carnivals and everything else. We've never seen that at any place we've ever gone to. And especially Leavenworth, that's a state highway coming down out of the passes, and they block off the whole entire thing. And then they circle, they go the state highway, hit the last stoplight by the high school, turn right and come all the way through town and end their parade back up crossing the state highway. They have the roadblocks there, and they have some volunteers that are standing there, just kind of standing there and saying, thanks for coming, but no one actually allowing pedestrians to cross the street. And this is strictly dealing with pedestrians. And they reiterated more than once, times are changing, things are changing.
Yeah, I think what we're finding is liability issues are just the whole world, right?
Right. And we further talked about the towing liability on an event. When you have an event and you've got cars that are parked in your area and they need to be towed, it's the event organizer's responsibility to get those cars towed, not the city. And I said, okay, then does the city give us permission to call the tow company direct? Because as things were done in the past, he said, law enforcement did it more out of the goodness of their heart for the support of the event, but it's not the city's responsibility to call the tow company for you. And therefore, you have to call the tow company yourself, as long as we have that understanding with the city and the tow company and the event organizer, that it's the event organizer that's responsible for making that contact for the tow. And as long as it's posted, they can't come back to the city and sue the city because you towed my car, but you didn't have your area posted. So that's another fine area that we all have to be careful of.
So Sharon, you're the one with your back against the wall. As far as, will you be able to come up with something in time by tomorrow, do you think?
He's supposed to get back to me. I'm going to say maybe even late today. He was going to talk to legal. I don't know if he got a chance to talk to legal today or not, to see about the crossing guards. And I've emailed John Clausen what I need from him, if at all possible. And if John says no, that's not feasible, then our events are gone. We can't do it. Real simple. So
I wonder if we can
deadline.
get this, we need to get this issue on a work study. This has got to be brought before the council so people start understanding
And
what's
isn't-
going on and we can get more clarification on it.
Cindy, isn't there a work study tomorrow? Because I understand that you're discussing approving the fireworks tomorrow.
Yes, tomorrow we have work study.
Okay. Okay.
Mhm. So I'm just wondering,
Because we have to
Janine-
have crossing guards for, we're only having 10 vendors on the night of the 4th of July. But we still have to have crossing guards from Frederick all the way to Seattle Street, even if we're only having 10 vendors.
At the risk of having to make farmers market do it, it's just not fair. It doesn't make any sense. And I wish somehow, Cindy, I mean, it's just not fair not to have a month's notice, a season's notice, or more than a few days' notice.
well, I'm with you guys. Listen, I'm with you. This is new information. We're just starting to get the trickle down. I don't think a lot of the council is even aware of so many changes or the ramifications. And I agree. I mean, I'm not exactly sure where it all came from or if it's just been discussed for a long time and we didn't hear about it, but it's just coming out now because we're starting to actually open up for events. I know that there are huge liability issues that the city has about this, that, and the other thing. And
That's what his whole focus was on, pedestrian safety and making sure the city is safe and that the city won't get sued if something happens.
Well, that's
I just-
reasonable. It's just we need more notice than this.
yeah, we're going to have to find some solutions. And right, we do need more notice. And these events are very important to our little town. We've
More
had them.
important than ever right now.
I know.
People want to do this.
Right. So Sharon, the idea of trying to get crossing guards from the schools right now would be amazing. It's just that they might be expecting to be paid, not maybe serve as volunteers.
Yeah, Mia's mom, Amber, is the one that has the connections. And she said there's kind of an association that she knows of where she felt that she could get volunteers who would volunteer their time. And Helene is working with her. She was supposed to come to the meeting today, but she worked until 2:30 this morning and she was just dead. So there was no way she made the morning meeting. But Helene is working with her to see what can she do to get us certified volunteers. But I have to have the plan tomorrow, regardless. And if I don't have it tomorrow, the event's gone.
Right. And I would just suggest that your plan just includes volunteers and people are working very hard to get them. And I would think that with this late notice, that even if you had a pair of volunteers, if one is certified, they can be assisting the other one until we can get all of this certification up to snuff.
I don't think so. He repeated more than once, certified volunteers or certified paid flaggers. But they do have to be certified or they just can't be there. See, we talked about even doing the ROTC for doing flagging, but unless they're certified, it can't happen.
So is it possible, at least, I don't know, I mean, Cindy, if you can do this, I mean, if at least she could have through Wednesday instead of through Tuesday, so that city council can get up to date on this and gives her 24 hours more, and
I
we have a work
received
study session tomorrow, and
the email from Brandy on Friday afternoon. I left out of town on Thursday. I didn't check my emails on Friday when I got to my daughter's because we're mega busy getting ready for this big baby shower. And so I finally checked early Saturday morning, and that's when I immediately sent it to Helene and I said that send this out to all my board. So she got it out to all the board members, and then Bob Morehouse immediately called me as soon as he got it because he's my vendor coordinator. So that's how quick it was.
Janine, let's see if we can get an extension on this requirement for fathoms.
Well,
Does-
that's the hard part, Cindy, is we're needing approval. And if you do an extension, is that going to be a day, 2 days? How many days? Because Bob is recruiting vendors. We have vendors mailing in applications just to be on the safe side that we're going to get to have the event. And, you know, sending back an application and refunding money is no big deal. We had to do that last year when we couldn't have our event. So we just refunded the money, and that was okay. But I don't know what it looks like as far as approval goes, because we're still up against a deadline. Bob has to have the vendors ready for the 4th of July fireworks. If the fireworks get approved or don't get approved, I have no inkling what your city council is going to do, Cindy.
so that's, any extension would be helpful though, don't you agree, Sharon? I mean, obviously 24 hours is not much, but at least to get through work study, so you know if there's a fireworks on the 10th, so council can get up to date on this new certification. I mean, any kind of an extension, because
and it gives him a chance to talk to legal, because he said he would have to go to legal to see what we could slide with to make it happen for right now.
somebody made that date deadline, so whoever made the date deadline can change the date deadline. I mean, it's not God, it's some spot in the city.
Yeah, because I'm at the mercy of John Clausen giving me a yes or no that he's willing to work with us, and yes, he'll redirect his buses. If he does, then that's half of the requirement passed. The other half is redoing a map layout and showing exactly where our certified flaggers would be on Bay Street.
So I just got an email from the chief that he would like to join. So I'm sending him the link information right now, just as a heads up.
Okay, so he'll give us the feedback on what Chimes and Lights will look like.
Yeah, so I'm giving him.
But you guys, we still have 6 months for that, so you're lucky, Cindy.
Not even 6, you guys, and we've got the same problems you do.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
6 months is better than 24 hours. And I
Actually-
am gonna have to jump off probably before we're done for a phone call, but I got a few more minutes, so.
Okay, so,
Sorry.
no. So Corinne, I think maybe since you are going to be leaving first, why don't you go ahead and represent POPSA and explain? Why don't you be the first, please? And then we can follow up with the rest of our concerns and asking for more time. And
Oh,
we
you
also
mean
need
the
clarity. Yeah. He's going to be
Okay.
on right now. So you're going to be one of the first to go ahead and speak as a representative of POPSA. And then we'll just keep sharing concerns and especially the timeline. And plus, we just plain need more communication. We absolutely do not really know. I mean, Sharon's the one who's been in there speaking with him, but we haven't seen it. This is all new. I'm saying I don't know a lot of this that I'm hearing. So the council's going to have to be brought up to speed on this. Ginny, and I don't know, just real quick, do you think we have enough time to work some of this in tomorrow night at the meeting?
That I honestly don't know. That would have to be either the mayor's call I believe it would be the mayor's call if anything else was added to the agenda because it's already been published.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, well, maybe we can, well, it could be added on in regard to the fireworks permit. That could be a tag on right there.
That
So-
open to the public to watch, Janine?
Absolutely. Yeah, it is a work study, so there's no citizen comments, but it is completely, yeah, anybody can join. It's also going to be live streamed on YouTube.
Okay, would you be kind enough to send me that link, please?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Great. Okay, welcome, Chief Brown. We've got a few concerns here, and I think we've just heard from Sharon about some of the issues that she has with trying to get her event put on and some of the changes that have taken place that kind of new, not a lot of time to deal with them.
I would agree.
We're just, yeah, and I'm gonna have Corinne just kind of give her 2 cents worth because she represents the Port Orchard Bay Street merchants. And we're all just trying to get our events back on board. And anyway, Corinne, do you want to go ahead and just go say a few
Sure.
things?
Hi, Chief.
Hi.
Yeah, I mean, I usually say a lot more than 2 cents worth, but I have another phone call to get on.
Okay.
And this, you know, I guess and I maybe will get to hear some of what your response before I get off. I'm not sure. I wasn't sure. I know we've been anxious to have our community task force meeting, which we're finally having 2 weeks later than you wanted to have it. And
It
I didn't know if
usually
any of this, yeah, I didn't know if any of this had something to do with that, or there's a whole nother issues that we're going to be talking about.
Oh,
But
yeah, whole nother set of issues.
okay, that I kind of had, I thought it was something bigger, although this is really big for any of us who put on events. So
Sure.
I guess my biggest concern is the lack of notice, how sudden this is. And, you know, we're all scrambling anyways to try to do events suddenly and get lodging tax and get applications in and all that. So there's such a suddenness to this. And then it sounds like, you know, it's new to even some of the city council. I don't know if there's any way there can be some kind of an extension, at least for Sharon, for 24 hours or 48 hours to try to get certified volunteers or whatever. But my biggest concern is, where do you draw the line then? Farmers market, I hate to say this because I don't want you to tell farmer market they have to do this, but why farmers market doesn't, but something else that's behind the parking lot does. And, you know, I mean, so that sounds like for us to do return to trick or treating, we'll have to do certified volunteers at the crosswalk. And
Well,
that's probably,
correct.
it's probably an event I agree with because it gets pretty crowded downtown with all those little kids, but it's just a brand new thing and with very short notice. So
Well, I would agree it's short notice. I mean, we were told 2 weeks ago that all these events were happening when we had initially been under the impression that there were no events occurring this year at all. I would say that the certified flaggers, we did talk with Popes about the Halloween crossing.
yeah, I remember
There was gonna
the
be the
last time
Rotsy
we did
guys.
it.
Yeah,
Yep.
the ROTC, and that's a state law. That's not a PD thing. So state law requires if you're going to have anybody that is assisting with crossing roadways or blocking or stopping traffic, they have to be either a certified flagger or a commissioned peace officer. And our stance
Right.
is we need to provide public safety. And if I tie my staff down to working traffic control points, they can. Hold on a second. My dog needs out. Stand by. Really now? Come on. Sorry, she was going to make noise the entire time if I didn't let her out. So if we have to make sure
Because
we're
of this-
following the law, and
Yeah.
when there is a critical incident, if I have people that are dedicated as crossing guards, because they are dedicated to that, I can't pull them off.
Right.
As we know from 2019, when we did the Chimes and Lights, the police presence was significant compared to years past. We had bomb dogs. We had 5 or 6 different agencies under mutual aid that were present. And so a lot of what is being triggered is dependent upon the size of the crowd. And that's one thing that we are going to be working as we're continuing to move forward is what are the triggers for additional response? I know that in years past, event organizers would say, well, I would like 2 officers, and we'd say, cool, here's 2 officers. That's not really the way that we should be planning for public safety, is that we need to be able to look at what the event organizers intend to do and what their planning is. And then we look at the size of the crowd and the impact that it will have on the community. And then we make a determination there. One of the things that Deputy Chief Main and I have been working on over the last several weeks, when the council said we're good to go with having these events, is saying what triggers, when we have a certain gate or a certain trigger occur, what does that mean? So if we know that, an event is going to average 500 people throughout the day, that's probably not anything that we need to add additional people for. When we look at, say, the 4th of July, even though there's not an official event, but we know that there's going to be a significant number of people that are down on the waterfront, then we probably need to plus up staffing and dedicate them to that. When we're looking at charity runs, or we're looking at Halloween, or we're looking at Fountains of Fun, or Fathoms of Fun, excuse me, we have to be able to say, well, what's our trigger point for increasing to this, and how do we manage this plan, and who's going to lead it, and all the rest, because now we're also including fire, and we're including our other agencies under mutual aid. We don't have nailed down answers for that yet. And we may not, depending on how our planning cycle goes, because if you say, well, it's 1,000 people, but it's significantly spread out and it doesn't have a parking impact, that may have a different response than dialed in one parking lot downtown.
Yeah, no, and I think especially things like Ladies' Night Out and the trick or treating, where it's the sidewalks that are crowded. But when it's vendors over several days in the back parking lots, then the flow of traffic, walkers, is much more dispersed through the day. I mean, it's not crowding the sidewalks. So I don't know. We're just all wondering how Fathoms can push forward, at least have time to do what they need to do and push forward. So.
Well, and that's certainly, I mean, I think, Sharon may have a different perspective, but I think our meeting went well today. One of the other things that I would say is that, in the years past, when they have paid for traffic control from the police department, that's far more expensive than you would pay a traffic control company. You're paying us $100 an hour per officer. Those dollars could far better be served providing a public safety component where you have us in the crowds. And same thing I told Sharon is, I'm not going to sit here and say, oh my goodness, how Kate is going to come, there's going to be a bomb or any of these things. I'm more worried about, honestly, is we have somebody that has dementia and is driving a 79 Cadillac and doesn't realize the road is closed. It's one of the reasons why we worked with Public Works for the last Chimes and Lights to have water barriers. So even if they wanted to drive through, they can't, because in years past, it was either sandwich boards with some tape that said, do not drive through here, or a dump truck. And I hope you guys agree that dump trucks are not pretty to look at. I don't want a dump truck sitting outside the Christmas tree when it gets lit up. I want this pleasant experience. I mean, last year or 2 years ago at Chimes, I mean, people were sitting on the barriers because they're great. I mean, and it's a way to integrate safety and still have it be aesthetically pleasing. But that's why we have a longer planning cycle, is that we need to be able to sit down. And that's another thing that we talked with Sharon about, is our shortened timeline makes it more difficult for us to get everybody in the same room. As we move forward, when we have these events, it can't just be somebody drops off an application and we all email each other and then, yeah, we're good to go. The larger events in the community. Hey, sorry. He's got a sore on his paw. I got to keep him from licking. That's why I shouldn't work from home. So in the future, the goal is, when we have the time to plan, is that we say, okay, let's get the event organizers and their staff in here. Let's get Public Works, let's get the police department, let's get the fire department and any other department or agency that is going to have a piece of this, and say, how do we make this successful? How do we get to yes? Because we want this. I mean, one of the reasons I moved here is I enjoy this stuff. Yeah. But I can't.
I have to jump on another call. I want to, before I do that, I just want to support Sharon, and I love the idea of we can get certification classes going for volunteers, and if that fits, I think that makes sense, because then we can draw from volunteers from all the different organizations, and be able to cover whatever is needed throughout the year. And whatever it takes to do that, if we can get that going, I think that's a great idea, and I'll help spread the word or whatever I can for that. So, but I have a 4:15 call, so I got to jump off.
Thank you,
Thank
Kareem.
you.
We'll see you.
Hi, Kareem.
Next week.
Yep.
Okay. So, okay, Chief, what we need now is a way for Sharon to be able to get this event moving forward, something they've done for so many years. They're working real hard with Kitsap Transit to get a reroute, and that was a big concern, I understand.
I got the email off to John and asked him if he could get me a yes or no answer by the close of business tomorrow.
Okay.
I'll contact him. I'll contact him as well. And also, how can we help Sharon meet her certified flaggers requirement that no one seemed to know about until just very recently? I mean, we'll move forward with classes and all of that, but she has what? How many weeks? 2 weeks, Sharon, about?
Well, we have 24 hours basically till tomorrow afternoon.
Correct.
Okay, so that's really new. And
Well, I would dispute that that's really new. That was the same conversation that we had back in whenever we were planning for the 2019 Chimes, or no, I'm sorry, the 2019 Halloween.
no, it's news to me.
Okay.
You may have been discussing this with Pops or whomever, but it's news to me.
Okay.
And so, and I don't know, everything has opened up very quickly.
Yes.
We're all just, we had to turn down the carnival for lots of reasons that we know about. And short of closing these organizations down that put on these events, I mean, we have just a little bit of time to try to help in some way. I don't suggest that we're compromised, but we've got to find a solution for a little more time for her to be able to put this plan together. And I think it's just that I think she was counting on doing something that we have historically done that has worked. And so there's been some changes that a lot of people didn't know about. You didn't have time to get that discussed and brought forward, and they don't have time to hardly make it work. So we're here trying to find a solution. What do you think?
I don't disagree, and that's what we discussed earlier today when I met with Sharon. Is we want to get to yes.
Yeah.
We want to be able to have these events, but the difficulty is, like you just identified, is an issue of time and how we manage that. I recognize that there are things that were done a certain way in the past, but I can't, in my position, say I know that these things were done in the past when I know that they weren't done safely. I can't in good conscience, personally or professionally, say that we're going to do it a certain way when I know that that's not a safe way. I mean, that was the best example that I have is when we were talking today, Sharon, about the closing Harrison. Like I can't, that's not a hump I can get over. But what I have made an obligation to both Sharon and her group in moving forward is that we're going to talk to legal a little bit more and say, is this a deal killer, or is this a nice to have or a have to have? I certainly still have some concerns about, while it's not specifically within the grounds of whatever event, the reason that you have these large crowds crossing the street because of the event, they wouldn't be crossing otherwise. And what liability there is on the event organizers and the city in particular, which is my primary interest, is not only public safety, but protecting the city, is if we okay that, knowing from our legal that that's not an acceptable risk, I can't sign off on that, nor should the city. And so I've reached out to our attorney, and I should have an answer today. She's just, she's got some other things going on, but I will have an answer as soon as I can.
Right. So if there is a promise or a plan to train flaggers or whatever we're calling these certified cross guards, would that be enough as part of the plan?
I mean, I guess I don't have an issue with that, but I mean, as Sharon identified, I mean, and I've run some of these things with volunteers, and 20 people can say they're going to show up and 3 do.
3 do, right.
You know, and what I don't want is what I would hate to have happen is we say, this is an acceptable plan. And the day before or the morning of, you say, hey, nobody showed up. And now where are we? And so I think, at least for me, the linchpin on this is making sure that Ms. Archer and I get in touch today and we have some clarity on that. So like I said, I'm waiting to get a phone call from her. That's what I kind of promised Sharon and her team, is that if I can, I'll get an answer today on that. But I really like the idea that they came up with too, is, you know, what you might be able to do is get, and again, don't hold me to this, but get a hold of WisDOT or whomever in these that do these instructional things. And maybe you can get a better deal by saying, hey, look, I'm going to have 15 people here. Can you just show up and give us a discounted rate? That may be a possibility, because now they don't have to do one-on-ones, or they could organize it and you can go to the Given Center and host something. One of the ways that we are able to have a lot of successful training is that we host training. So we go to, if Janine's the instructor, we go to Janine and say, hey, look, we can get you 30 people to this class, but we want 3 seats at that class. And it works out for them because they are still getting paid for that class. And it works out for us because we get free training, and all we have to do is the logistics.
And that's through the Department of Transportation?
I have no idea. I just know that that's a model that we use.
Oh, okay, okay.
I don't know if WisDOT actually teaches. I think that they have a bunch of independent contractors that teach it for them to their standard.
Okay.
Do you have any idea what that looks like? Is that a 2-hour class or
It's 6 hours and it's $85.
6-hour class, $85?
At least the one that I saw. But like I said, that is a state requirement for blocking traffic, or for stopping traffic or diverting traffic.
So when people are using crosswalks, if they're just actually following the crosswalk signs, that's not diverting traffic, is it?
No, but so that was the issue we had when Popes wanted to have the ROTC kids lead people across. So as soon as you have somebody that's out there holding a flag for somebody else, and it's not like the mom holding it for her kids, that
Right.
now has to be a certified flagger. And so what I'm trying to get a hold of Ms. Archer again today is say, look, is this something that is a nice to have or a need to have? If it's a need to have based on the size of the events, which now has that direct tie to bringing those people in, then the city's not able to compromise on that. If she and I can have a conversation and go, is this really where we're at? If we're not, then like I said, hopefully be able to get back to everybody today and say, Harrison closed. That buses can't come through, but the crossing guard piece is a non-issue. And I'm hoping we'll get there today.
Okay. All right. So we will then maybe be able to expand tomorrow at the council study session. Well, at least to give a heads up that this kind of thing is coming, the events, we need to have a broader discussion with event organizers and get this information out as it's clearer to all of us, because it's so brand new.
Yeah,
I know you're saying.
Yeah, and I think it would have been clear if we had a long, I mean, again, I'm going to keep jumping back to the conversation that Sharon and I had today. I mean, her point was, if this was a normal year, the application for the permit would have been in January. And my response was, we would have met the next week with fire and public works and the police department and all these other players to make sure that it's successful. The issue is we've got 2 weeks to get this done.
Okay, another factor there is, my understanding is if the state highway has to be closed, it's 90 days for the application. If it's not a state highway closure, then it's within 30 days of the event. So 30 days out for any application. We just do so many, and it's just my standard. Over my Christmas holiday, I sit and type city applications.
Yeah, and again, I mean, I don't have any control over what the state does. And I don't have control over the ordinance or whether or not city council can or cannot give a variance to that. And that may be a hurdle as well.
Well, we're going to try. We'll
Okay.
try everything we can.
Yeah,
This is.
because see, the cruise is already August 8th is that event. So June 8th was the 90 days out that WashDOT needs for their processing of closing the state highway. So we're already into that 90 days for the Festival by the Bay and the cruise event on August 8th.
Right.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, again, with a little bit more time for that, we can certainly start our planning cycle with you guys and with the crews. But I don't have any control at all over whether or not the state is willing to close that, whether they are willing to close it, or if they are allowed a variance to say, I know it's within 90 days, but we'll do it anyway. But my preference is that we plan for it as if it's going to happen so that we aren't behind the 8 ball if they do grant that application.
My request to the state, I looked at the date on it today. My email to Don Lindsay was June 6th. So I was 2 days before the 90 days.
Well, there you go. Get it right in underneath the wire.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. I think that gives us some idea of where to go. And we are definitely going to have to work with event organizers to help them get going.
I agree.
Otherwise, a lot of this is going bye-bye.
Well, we'll do the best that
So
we.
thank you so much for taking the time.
You bet. Give me a shout if you need anything else. Thank you for grabbing out to me, Janine.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, well, keep working on this, you guys.
Mhm.
And I do like the idea. Okay, what we need to do is look at contacting volunteer organizations like Rotary, Seroptimus, etc., and find out about people wanting to get trained as these certified cross guard people. Maybe we can get that information. Sandy, you have a suggestion?
I was just listening to him talk. Some of this I've just heard for the first time. The carnival
here.
is the same. Why aren't we having the carnival? Is it for the same reasons that he was talking about, or what's going on with that? Is that for the same
The carnival's location, you guys, it's location. And
location? Oh,
location and liability, which has really changed. And the same thing, there was just not enough time. But it probably, I'm not even going to say probably, if it were in a different location, it might have had a different outcome. It's just downtown. It's changing the parking and all of the things that had to be changed. And it's a different bear down there than it used to be. That was starting to change a while ago. And we haven't had carnival downtown for, Sharon, how long has that been?
2018.
2018. We were starting to have some
There was
problems
there
with
was a
it.
10-year gap in there, about a 10-year gap, and then we brought it back in 2018.
But Sharon, that was then it was
17 or 18,
was-
but I want to say 18.
and it was located out at the mall then, correct?
No, we've never brought in a carnival to the mall. That's just the mall people bringing in a carnival on their own. We had nothing to do with whatever was at the mall for a carnival.
Okay, I didn't even know that.
Yeah,
So,
whatever was ours.
and 2018 was the last time we had a carnival downtown?
Yeah, 2017 or 18.
Okay. It was starting to be a problem with, damage to the parking lots, some of those things like that. The security got to be a little bit more of an issue. The power cables running all over. Just our area is just not big enough. And the parking, all of that is complicated. So to have to try to get a carnival done there in that little bit of time,
What does that mean?
maybe
You
with a
think-
lot of,
Does that mean we'll probably never have another one, or we'll have to move to a different location in the future, or what?
Just as an
probably a different
FYI,
location.
I'm working with the Port of Bremerton, and I've been in touch with Jim Rothland and Kathy. I was just on the City of Bremerton website. Is there any way that you could send me an event application for the City of Bremerton?
I can try. I'm on their email list for all of their events that come through.
Okay.
So I can probably get you a contact.
Okay, because Warren is talking with Pedro, hopefully today or first thing in the morning, to see the Port of Bremerton guys are okay with the carnival coming there, but because it's in the city limits of Bremerton, we have to go through the city
Bless you.
council over there to get it approved. And so again, that week of opportunity is July, whatever that Tuesday is, through Monday. So our window of opportunity is so small.
I'll try to find you a contact today and see what I can do to get you that, okay?
Okay, greatly appreciate it.
Sharon, would that be downtown Bremerton?
That would be the Bremerton Airport.
Oh, yeah. Well, now see,
Yeah.
I see those areas as being much more workable. And I think that's probably for some of these larger events, these kinds of things, going out is going to be a lot easier than getting into our city centers anymore.
Well, and it's like I told Jim, if you have the visibility from the highway, all the people going to Gorst, or not Gorst, but Allen and Belfair, Watauga Beach, or not, whatever that beach is out there, and Shelton, anybody passing on that road going that way,
I think that'd be awesome,
have
to
the
tell you the
opportunity
truth.
to see it, and we might draw from those people who would never come into downtown Port Orchard.
Love it. I love it. And there'd be parking. There's a lot, that makes a whole lot of sense. Again, I was saying it's location of that particular event. And, you know, we're all getting hit with just plain timing. So we've diverted a little bit, and Janine,
We have diverted a little bit.
which back to, you know, I was going to
Right.
even raise the question, could we even have a Chimes and Lights event? Do we have enough time? There's so many things that we have to work over, and I don't even know myself. I've been thinking about this a lot. I think that we could have a scaled down version this year, but I don't even know what that looks like. And Janine, I'm not sure, hearing all this is how we would have the budget to be able to do things like pay for these flaggers and that kind of thing. It's more than we can solve in this one meeting. And I think the question remains is, what could Chimes and Lights look like this year? I think next year for sure we would plan on an all-out big event, but I suspect that we're not going to be able to make it an all-out event with this little bit of time, and with everybody needing to deal with all these issues, because we'll have to deal with the very same stuff. And I know our budget is not very large. It's very small. But for sure, we'll keep doing the decorated tree contest, and perhaps we'll be able to have a tree lighting for the public. That's the part I'm just not sure about. We'll fill out our application and see what kind of barriers we run into, huh?
And I'll talk to Brandy about the special event application and about the possible updates or what we need to do for the Chimes and Lights event as well.
Okay, good, good. So I think that's where we're going to leave this meeting, is that we'll just explore the possibility of how much we can do for Chimes and Lights in December. And actually, we don't have really that much time, because July, August, September, October, November, we've got 5.5 months, you know, and that's not a lot of time either. It's not like Sharon, who's got 24 hours. But still, there's so much uncertainty, and we're going to have a lot to iron out, and we'll just all want to work together and see what we really need to do. And like the chief is finding out how much is really 100% have to do, or is that just we have more time with that kind of thing. But I do think we should reach out really soon to all of the clubs, the volunteer clubs around, and find out if we can get people who would be willing to be trained as these certified cross guards, because we can see that they're going to be needed. We're going to have a whole list of people, and see if we can get a group together. And who would pay for this? Well, we'll have to find out if we can get a group session and how much it would cost.
And also, just as a reminder that city facilities, including the Given Center, are not open for rentals at this time.
Right.
Yeah.
So we're not completely free of the COVID stuff. Yeah. I think we're all figuring it out, but hopefully we can move forward with the Fathoms event.
I just penciled in flaggers that there's 4 intersections. So if you do one flagger for 4 hours, another one for 4 hours, that's 8 people times minimum wage of $13.59. That's $109.52 per hour times 8 people. That's 876 times 3 days. That's $2,628 for 3 days if we had to pay that many flaggers for 3 days. And that's out of our budget completely.
Yeah, we need to find volunteers. We need to find volunteers who think
Yeah.
this is fun, you know?
And the other thing that Chief Brown mentioned earlier this morning, and I heard him mention it again, was a traffic control company. And I didn't ask him if he knows of where those traffic control companies are.
I've never heard of that myself.
So that might be something that we need to do a Google on, the nearest traffic control company to Kitsap County.
Okay. Right. All righty.
That hour went fast, didn't it?
Didn't it? Well, you know,
Janine, I sent you an email about the Seroptimus tree.
Oh, perfect. Okay.
I don't know, do we have to mail that application? The copy is green, so I don't know how well it copies, but
I've had people just print it out color and black and white, and it's I can see it, yeah. And then you can email it, you can mail it in. We
I
are
have to get a check, and I don't even know if our spots, but we do want to do a tree, obviously.
perfect. Okay. Yep. As soon as the meeting's over, I will pull that up. But yeah, we're open to the public, so you can also come in and make the payment or drop off the
Okay.
application if you want.
Okay. I have to get a check.
Sounds good. Thanks, Sandy.
so thank you, everybody. And we will reach out, and tomorrow when we have the study session and we have the event approval for the fireworks, perhaps some of that information can come out then. I will do my best to at least have a little summary of what we're up against and see if we can get this back on to being discussed. Again, finding out exactly what we have to do, what's really the law and what's policy that may not be exactly, I don't know. We've got to get this figured out. And legal will help. And Chief Brown said he was going to talk to Charlie or whoever. So, okay, we'll find out more. Thank you so much. I really appreciate your patience, and I'm here with you. You guys, I'm telling you, a lot of this is as new to me as it is to you. It's very difficult. So, thank you. And I'll make a couple of calls myself, okay?
Thank you.
Okay, ladies.
All right.
Bye.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Next month.